So the intelligence gathering and planning for a major operation like this are not trivial. They take months, years even. I will share what I can without undermining ongoing investigations by police. Police had initially received disparate information on suspicious activities. In 2021, our anti-money laundering regime picked up the use of suspected forged documents to substantiate sources of funds in bank accounts in Singapore. Some suspicious transaction reports were filed by financial institutions and other companies. Police began looking separately into these alerts. In early 2022, police launched a comprehensive, coordinated intelligence probe. The probe uncovered a web of individuals believed to have connections amongst themselves, including by familial ties. Police analyzed the information and probed further, quietly. To avoid alerting the suspects, the work was kept to a very small group of officers, and a decision was made to hold off any enforcement or overt investigative actions. Police's aim was to probe extensively and develop as full a picture as possible of the suspects and their associates, their suspected criminal activities, and their assets before making any move against them. As the probe progressed, the web uncovered by the police grew and grew. More and more individuals were implicated in the alleged money laundering operation, and more of their assets held in Singapore were discovered. Police painstakingly and discreetly traced their ties and assets. Members would appreciate that anti-money laundering probes of this scale and nature are complex. Connecting the dots between people and things is a lot easier said than done. We also had to be very discreet, and so police moved cautiously and with only a very small team. Had the suspects caught wind of our probes, the suspects and their assets might have fled, and the investigations and the entire operation might have been jeopardized. Earlier this year, the police assessed that they had enough information and consulted the Attorney General's chambers. AGC assessed that we had sufficient reason to suspect that criminal offences had been committed in Singapore. Following the intensive intelligence probes, extensive reviews of information, and examination of evidence, police moved decisively against the suspects on 15th August this year. Our laws make it a duty for everyone, including but not limited to landlords, property developers, financial institutions, and corporate service providers, to report suspicious transactions. Under Section 45 of the Corruption, Drug Trafficking and Other Serious Crimes Confiscation of Benefits Act, or CDSA, all persons have a duty to inform STRO if the person knows or has reasonable grounds to suspect through the course of his profession or business that any property or transaction they are dealing with may be illicit. There is no minimum threshold for STR filing. There are also sector-specific requirements to file STRs. Sir, Singapore handles massive volumes of transactions every day. The reality that this sheer volume provides easy camouflage for illicit activities. Spotting a suspicious transaction among millions is challenging. To improve effectiveness, STRO has worked with sectoral regulators to develop red flag indicators to improve the detection of money laundering activities by gatekeepers. The red flag indicators are regularly updated to take into account emerging risk types in the money laundering landscape. STRO received an average of 43,000 STRs annually between 2020 and 2022. That's more than 150 every working day. Over 80% were filed by our financial institutions. Intelligence received, whether from STRs, STRO's foreign counterparts, or other sources, is analyzed thoroughly and extensively by STRO. If STRO assesses that the information is relevant, it will disseminate the information to relevant government agencies, which will then conduct further investigations. All this work done by the STRO, sectoral regulators, and police is incredibly difficult. It's not just one needle in a haystack, but one needle in several haystacks. It is also not a static field, because determined money launderers are always finding new ways to hide their tracks and avoid detection. In Chinese, we say, 道高一尺，魔高一丈. Against this backdrop, it is remarkable that our officers were able to uncover this web, and in a fairly short time. STRO will, of course, continue to update its methods and help agencies better connect the dots. In February last year, STRO commissioned a new data analytics system to enhance its ability to process large volumes of STRs and raise the quality of financial intelligence disseminated to domestic law enforcement agencies. But let us understand, this is a never-ending challenge. With each new case, we will gain fresh insights and enhance our ability to detect the next one. Singapore has in place a robust anti-money laundering regime. We are held in high regard internationally, not just as a financial center, but for our strong, principled, and no-nonsense approach to taking down individuals who break our laws. In its last evaluation of Singapore in 2016, the FATF assessed Singapore to have a strong legal and institutional framework against money laundering and terrorism financing. We achieved substantial results in several aspects, even as a few areas were identified for improvement. We have moved since the evaluation to address these areas and to further strengthen our regime. We have updated our prevention frameworks to keep pace with the evolving risks and typologies of money laundering, and strengthened our capabilities to proactively detect and take firm enforcement action. Nevertheless, this case is a reminder that even the most stringent preventive measures can be circumvented by determined criminals. But it also shows that our system is able to detect suspicious individuals and activities, and that when we do, we have the resolve and capabilities to track them down and take them to task. Just as low crime does not mean no crime, zero tolerance of money laundering does not mean zero occurrence. This is not the first time Singapore has detected and acted against such money launderers, nor will it be the last. As I mentioned, we have been undertaking ongoing reviews in the various sectors to tighten our anti-money laundering regime. Learning from this case, we will consider further measures to strengthen our regime. Second Minister for Finance, Indrani Raja, will be leading an interministerial committee involving the relevant sectoral regulators. Later in her speech, she will outline its terms of reference and priorities. Sir, this police investigation has strengthened our reputation as a serious, high-quality financial center, and for law and order. It will strengthen trust and confidence among investors and Singaporeans that we run a clean system that stands amongst the tallest in the world. With your permission, I will respond to any clarifications which members may have after my colleagues have made their statements.